You know the exact feeling. You're sitting in a conference room, or more likely, staring at your own pixelated reflection on a Zoom call, and you hear someone saying, "We really value your input here." But the words are hollow. You can smell the stale, burnt coffee in the air, feel the aggressive hum of the fluorescent lights above, and you watch as the meeting moves on without actually incorporating a single thing you said. You are being acknowledged, but you are not being heard. It is the slow, suffocating realization that your presence is decorative. You are a seat filler in your own career. You've played by the rules, hit the KPIs, answered the emails at midnight, and yet, when decisions are made, you are still on the outside looking in. The ancient Romans engineered a psychological firewall against this exact brand of erasure. They understood that being taken seriously was not about how loudly you spoke, but about the undeniable weight of your presence. They called it the triad of authority: Gravitas, Veritas, and Constantia. Depth, truth, and unshakable consistency. It was the ancient architecture of influence, designed to ensure that when a Roman citizen spoke, the room fell silent. You've tried to fix the invisibility. You've downloaded the meditation apps. You've tried the boundary-setting scripts you found in a leadership podcast. You've maybe even flirted with quiet quitting just to reclaim some oxygen, and none of it worked. Why? Because those are band-aids on a hemorrhage. They treat the symptom, the fatigue, the anxiety, while the Romans treated the soul. They understood that without an internal foundation of gravitas, you are just a leaf in the corporate wind. This is the story of Alex Turner, a project manager who had everything the corporate world said would make him happy, and it was destroying him. Seattle, Washington. The rain beats against the floor-to-ceiling windows of the 30th floor, distorting the gray skyline into a watercolor of corporate monotony. Inside the open-plan office, the sensory assault is relentless. Who is Alex Turner in this ecosystem? He is a 37-year-old project manager, wearing the standard uniform of the overlooked middle tier, a gray Patagonia vest over a blue button-down, khakis, and leather shoes that have lost their shine from the endless commute. What is he doing? He is staring at two monitors, his inbox a cascading waterfall of red exclamation marks and urgent flags, while simultaneously trying to mute his Slack notifications before the next sync begins. When does this happen? Every single Monday, at exactly 8:47 a.m. between the first sip of burnt Starbucks dark roast and the dread of the weekly stand-up. Where is he? Trapped in a labyrinth of ergonomic desks and acoustic panels that absorb sound but somehow never absorb the stress. Why is he here? Because he was promised that if he just put his head down and delivered, he would be recognized. How does he survive? By running on a treadmill of reactive tasks, jumping from one manufactured crisis to the next, and mistaking motion for momentum. The atmosphere of his professional life is a low-frequency vibration, a dull, pervasive hum that settles behind the eyes. It is the constant, droning background noise of a life lived in the margins of other people's agendas. It's the scent of dry erase markers and takeout pad thai left in the break room fridge. It is the mechanical, rhythmic tapping of keyboards, 1,000 tiny hammers building a fortress of mediocrity. The breaking point doesn't arrive with a bang. There is no tragic firing, no spectacular meltdown. It is a micro-collapse. A Tuesday afternoon, the conference table is a cold, polished slab of fake mahogany. Alex is presenting the Q3 risk mitigation strategy, a document he had spent 14 hours crafting, pulling data from 3 different legacy systems. He is mid-sentence, explaining a critical bottleneck, when the VP of engineering, a man named Dave, who wears his indifference like a badge of honor, interrupts. "Yeah, Alex, we'll just pivot the agile sprints," Dave says, waving a hand as if swatting a fly. "We don't need to overthink the bottleneck." Alex stops. He looks around the table. No one is looking at him. They are looking at Dave. Sarah from finance is nodding. The junior analysts are scribbling down Dave's pivot strategy, ignoring the fact that it completely contradicts the data Alex just laid out. Dave then repeats, almost verbatim, a heavily diluted version of Alex's own mitigation strategy, presenting it as his own improvised epiphany. The room agrees. The meeting moves on. Alex is left holding the dry erase marker, the ghost of his own presentation lingering in the air. He is invisible. He is a conduit for other people's authority, a stepping stone for someone else's gravitas. And there, in the silence of that conference room, the internal lie takes root, wrapping its vines around his brainstem. If I just work harder, if I can just anticipate the next bottleneck, I'll finally be safe. I'll finally be seen. It is the lie of the middle manager, the belief that the system is meritocratic and that exhaustion is a down payment on respect. 3 weeks later, Alex finds himself standing in a dimly lit, climate-controlled rare bookshop in Pioneer Square. The rain is hammering the cobblestones outside, but inside, the air smells of old paper, binding glue, and quiet. He is here to see Margaret Stone. Margaret is a former chief strategy officer who had stepped away from the corporate world a decade ago, leaving behind a legacy that had become mythology in the Seattle tech scene. She is in her late 60s, with silver hair cut sharply against her jawline. She wears a simple, impeccably tailored black cashmere sweater. There is no fidgeting, no nervous checking of a smartwatch. She exudes an aura of being entirely, almost unnervingly present. She is untouchable, not because she is wealthy, but because she is impenetrable. The petty tyrannies of the office cannot reach her here. Alex had reached out through a mutual acquaintance, desperate for a lifeline, and Margaret had agreed to a brief meeting. He stands before her desk, his shoulders hunched, his eyes carrying the hollow exhaustion of a man who hasn't slept a full night in years. He begins to vent. He talks about Dave, about the ignored reports, about the endless Slack threads, the burnout, the feeling of being a ghost in his own life. Margaret listens. She doesn't interrupt. She doesn't offer platitudes. She simply lets him run out of words. When the silence finally stretches between them, heavy and absolute, she leans forward, her dark eyes locking onto his. "Alex," she says, her voice low and completely devoid of sympathy. "Are you building a career or are you building a cage?" The question hangs in the air like a physical blow. Alex opens his mouth to defend his choices, but no sound comes out. He realizes in that horrifying moment of clarity that the bars of his cage are made entirely of his own compliance. Margaret stands up, walks to a shelf, and pulls out a small, worn, leather-bound edition of Marcus Aurelius. She doesn't hand it to him. Instead, she places it on the desk between them. "You want to know why they talk over you?" she asks. "It's not because you're wrong. It's because you have no weight. You are trying to win their respect with effort. But effort is cheap. They can smell your desperation to please. You are chasing them. The Romans didn't chase. They planted their feet and let the world come to them. You are lacking Gravitas, Veritas, and Constantia. Without those, you are just making noise." She pauses, letting the Latin sink into his psyche before delivering the final strike. "I want you to think about something, Alex. And I want you to be honest because your sanity depends on it. If your job title, your salary, and your Slack status were stripped away tomorrow, what remains of your dignitas? Who are you when the corporate scaffolding collapses?" It is a question that pierces right through the screen, meant for Alex, but reverberating into the minds of anyone listening. What is left of you? Margaret doesn't give Alex a book to read or a podcast to listen to. She gives him a physical prescription. Starting tomorrow, she commands, you will wake up at 4 a.m. You will not check your email. You will not look at the markets. You will not read the news. You will go to your living room. You will sit in a chair, and you will be entirely silent for exactly 30 minutes. You will train your mind to exist without reacting. You will build the foundation of Constantia. To the modern professional, this sounds like torture. The brain of a stressed corporate worker is a pinball machine of dopamine and cortisol. From the moment the alarm goes off, the nervous system is under siege. The morning inbox check is a hit of anticipatory anxiety, a spike in cortisol that floods the prefrontal cortex, the brain's executive function center. Every Slack ping, every red notification badge is a micro-threat, triggering the amygdala's fight or flight response. Over time, this becomes a chronic state. The cortisol loop is a closed circuit. You anticipate a threat, you check your phone, the threat is confirmed, cortisol spikes, you react, you get a minor dopamine hit from the reaction, and then the anticipation begins again. Your brain literally becomes wired to be reactive. You lose the neurological capacity for gravitas because your prefrontal cortex is too exhausted from managing adrenaline to project calm authority. By sitting in silence at 4 a.m., Alex is not just resting. He is actively rewiring his brain. He is forcing the nervous system to break the cortisol loop. In the silence, the amygdala settles. The prefrontal cortex, responsible for deep thought, emotional regulation, and long-term planning, comes back online. This is the neuroscience behind Constantia, steadfastness. You cannot be steadfast if your nervous system is a leaf in the wind. By choosing stillness before the world demands action, Alex is building a neurological moat. He is reclaiming the first moments of his day, declaring to his own brain that he is the sovereign of his attention. Gravitas requires space to form, and in the modern world, space is only taken by force. The first few mornings are agonizing. At 4 a.m., Seattle is a dark, wet beast. The rain lashes the windows of Alex's apartment. His brain screams at him. Check the phone. What if Dave sent an email? What if the server went down? You're wasting time. His legs bounce. He feels a physical itch, a phantom vibration in his pocket. He is detoxing from the corporate IV drip, but he holds the chair. He breathes. He sits. By the fourth morning, something shifts. The noise doesn't stop, but the volume turns down. He begins to notice the space between his thoughts. He realizes that his urge to check his email is not a necessity. It is a neurological compulsion, a submission to the cortisol loop. By denying the compulsion, he begins to taste Veritas, the truth of his own autonomy. He is not a servant to the ping. A week into the protocol, it is Monday again, 8:47 a.m. The fluorescent lights hum. The burnt coffee smells the same. Alex is in the stand-up, but internally the architecture is different. Dave, the VP, is in rare form today. Client deliverable is delayed, and Dave is looking for a scapegoat. He zeroes in on Alex's team. Alex, your risk mitigation strategy didn't account for the vendor delay, Dave says, his voice carrying the sharp, aggressive tone of a man used to making people flinch. We look like amateurs. I need you to push the team harder. I need a war room by noon. The old Alex would have immediately begun apologizing, his cortisol spiking, his words tumbling out in a frantic attempt to placate Dave's anger. He would have accepted the blame for a vendor failure he couldn't control, trading his dignitas for a moment of false safety. Instead, Alex plants his feet. He lets the silence stretch. It is only 3 seconds, but in the fast-paced cadence of corporate speak, 3 seconds of dead air feels like an eternity. The room holds its breath. The neurologically rewired prefrontal cortex of Alex Turner overrides his amygdala. He doesn't flinch. He looks directly at Dave. Dave, Alex says, his voice low, deliberate, and stripped of all apology. This is Gravitas in action. Wait. The risk mitigation strategy specifically flagged this vendor delay on page 4. We built in a 2-week buffer because their historical delivery rate is unreliable. We are currently inside the buffer. We do not need a war room. We need to trust the strategy we already approved. He doesn't raise his voice. He doesn't over-explain. He simply states the Veritas, the truth, and holds the line with Constantia. The room is deathly quiet. Dave stares at Alex, looking for the anxious tell, the nervous smile, the yielded gaze. He finds none. Alex is immovable. The silence forces Dave to process the truth of the statement. He can't argue with the data, and he can't bully a man who refuses to be bullied. Right, Dave mutters, shifting his gaze back to his laptop. Well, keep an eye on the buffer then. It is a monumental victory. It is a partial win. Alex feels a surge of unprecedented clarity. He didn't just survive the meeting, he commanded it. He realizes that his authority was never something Dave could give him. It was something Dave had been borrowing because Alex refused to occupy it. The Gravitas, the Veritas, the Constantia they worked, the ancient firewall held. He walks back to his desk feeling a foot taller. The gray noise of the office is still there, but it no longer permeates his skull. He is in the eye of the storm. For the first time in years, Alex Turner feels like a force to be reckoned with. He believes the tide has finally turned. And then at 4:58 p.m., just as the office is beginning to pack up, a Slack message pings. It is a channel-wide broadcast. The CEO has announced an immediate company-wide restructuring. The email follows seconds later, a sterile corporate document detailing the merging of Alex's department with a rival division. The language is sanitized, but the translation is clear. Redundancies are coming. Middle management is on the chopping block. But that isn't the worst of it. At 5:02 p.m., a calendar invite appears on Alex's screen. It is from the new incoming senior director, a name he doesn't recognize. The subject line reads, Performance Alignment Review. His cursor hovers over the invite. It's scheduled for tomorrow morning, 8:30 a.m. The corporate storm has arrived, and it is coming directly for his dignitas. It is 2:14 a.m. in Seattle. The city is a slick black mirror reflecting the headlights of the last cargo trucks rolling down Alaskan Way. Alex Turner is sitting on the edge of his bed, his face illuminated by the cold, blue glow of his laptop screen. The restructuring document is open. He has read it 14 times. The corporate jargon, synergy capture, right-sizing, efficiency matrices is a sanitized weapon designed to obscure a simple truth. People's livelihoods are being decided by a spreadsheet, and he is a variable in that spreadsheet. His heart is pounding. The old cortisol loop, the one he had spent weeks dismantling with Margaret Stone's 4 a.m. silence protocol, is clawing at the inside of his ribcage, demanding to be fed. The impulse is overwhelming. He wants to open Slack. He wants to message Dave or Sarah from finance or anyone. He wants to craft a preemptive apology, a justification, a performance review defense written in the desperate, breathless syntax of a man begging for his cage. He wants to be the people pleaser again, because the people pleaser is safe. The people pleaser gets to keep the title, the salary, the vest, and the identity. The people pleaser survives. He picks up his phone. His thumb hovers over Margaret's contact. It is the middle of the night. He shouldn't call. But the panic is a tide, and he is drowning. He hits dial, expecting voicemail. She picks up on the second ring. No sleep in her voice, only steel. Margaret, I can't do this, Alex whispers, his voice cracking. The confession spills out of him like a ruptured pipe. The review tomorrow, the restructuring. I want to go back. I want to just agree with whatever they say, take whatever they offer and make it stop. This Roman way, the gravitas, the silence, it's too hard. I'm not built like you. I'm not untouchable. I just want to feel safe again. There is a long pause on the line. He can hear the faint hiss of the connection. When she speaks, her voice is a scalpel. Safe, she repeats, letting the word hang in the dark like a condemned man's noose. Alex, you were never safe. You were just compliant. There is a profound difference. The compliance you're crawling back to, that is the safety of a dog that has learned to roll over so it doesn't get kicked. It is the illusion of safety. They can still kick you, and tomorrow they will. He closes his eyes, the truth of it burning. You think the Roman way is about feeling better? Margaret continues, her tone devoid of even a gram of softness. It is not about feeling better. It is about being harder to break. Gravitas is not a comfort blanket. It is armor, and armor is heavy. You are at the exact moment where every corporate drone decides to drop the shield because it hurts their shoulder. You can drop it. You can walk into that review tomorrow and beg, and you will keep your job for now, but you will lose yourself. And the next time they come for you, and they will come, you will have no defense at all. The silence between them is absolute. Endure, Alex, she says quietly. Constantia, stand in the fire and do not move. The line goes dead. Alex stares at the dark screen of his phone. The panic is still there, a wild animal thrashing in his chest. But beneath it, something else crystallizes. A cold, hardcore resolve. He puts the phone down. He does not open Slack. He sets his alarm for 4 a.m. He lies back in the dark and waits for the morning. 9:07 a.m. Conference Room B, the Performance Alignment Review. The room is a study in corporate intimidation. No windows, a long, narrow table. The air conditioning is turned up too high, pumping in recycled air that smells faintly of ozone and industrial carpet cleaner. It is a sensory trigger designed to constrict, to make you feel small before a single word is spoken. Alex sits on one side. Across from him sit two people, a passive HR representative named Claire, who is staring at her laptop with the practiced neutrality of a person who has optimized the removal of humanity from conversation, and the new senior director, Marcus Vance. Vance is a corporate carnivore, late 40s, custom suit, a watch that costs more than Alex's car. He exudes the aggressive, take-no-prisoners confidence of a man who views middle management not as people, but as overhead. Alex Vance begins, not looking up from the document in his hands. I've been reviewing the Q3 deliverables, your risk mitigation strategy. Impressive foresight on the vendor buffer. Dave filled me in on your little standoff last week. He looks up, offering a smile that doesn't reach his eyes. But we're merging departments now. The strategy is changing. We need speed, not buffers. We need team players who can pivot on a dime. I need to know you're on board with the new direction. The subtext is clear. Bow your head, agree, and you will survive the restructuring. The old Alex would have lunged at the validation. He would have said, absolutely, Marcus, whatever the team needs. He would have smiled, nodded, and made himself small. His amygdala would have fired the submit signal, and his prefrontal cortex would have dutifully crafted the capitulation. But the old Alex is not in the room. Alex does not speak first. He does not lean forward. He does not smile. He sits back in his chair, his spine straight, his hands resting calmly on the table. He allows the silence to stretch. He is practicing the most terrifying act of corporate defiance. He is withholding the need for validation. The physical sensation is excruciating. It feels like holding your breath underwater. Every nerve ending in his body is screaming at him to fill the void, to ease the tension, to grant Vance the submission he is demanding. The urge to nod, to break eye contact, to mutter a placating "of course." It is a physical itch beneath his skin. But he holds. He breathes in the ozone smell. He feels the cold air on his neck. And he looks at Marcus Vance with the steady, unblinking gaze of a man who has sat in silence at 4 a.m. and faced the void of his own making. I appreciate the context, Marcus, Alex says finally. His voice is low, unhurried, and completely free of the upward, questioning inflection of the people-pleaser. It is the voice of Gravitas. It does not ask for permission to exist. The vendor buffer was not a conservative measure. It was a data-driven necessity based on the vendor's historical delivery rate. Removing the buffer does not increase speed. It increases the statistical probability of a delivery failure, which will cost the company 3 times the amount of the delay. He is deploying Veritas, not an opinion, not a negotiation, just the unvarnished truth, laid on the table like a weapon. Vance's smile falters for a fraction of a second. He is not used to resistance from the middle tier. Alex, I hear you, but the executive team has made the call. We're moving to an agile, high-risk model. I need to know you can execute. You have my commitment to execute the strategy, Alex replies, his tone flat and absolute. This is Constantia, the line in the sand. But my commitment is to the success of the project, not to the illusion of speed. If the strategy fails because we ignored the data, the failure will not be mine. It will be the executive team's. I will not own a risk I did not create. Claire from HR looks up from her laptop, her neutral mask slipping into a micro-expression of shock. In the sterile, politics-driven ecosystem of the corporate office, this is the equivalent of drawing a sword. You do not tell a senior director that you will not absorb their blame. Vance stares at Alex. The room temperature seems to drop another 5 degrees. He is trying to read him, looking for the crack, the anxiety, the desperate need to be liked. He finds nothing but the calm, immovable presence of a man who has already faced his worst fear, losing his false identity, and survived. "All right, Alex," Vance says slowly, leaning back. The dynamic has imperceptibly shifted. Vance is no longer the inquisitor. He is the general assessing a fellow commander. "I'll review the data again. We'll table this for now." Alex nods once. "Thank you, Marcus." He stands, collects his things, and walks out of the room. His hands are steady. The fire has not burned him. It has forged him. Later that evening, as Alex is leaving the building, his phone buzzes. An email from the CEO's office. He opens it. It is an offer. Due to the restructuring, the role of Director of Strategic Operations has been created, a significant promotion. The salary is a 40% increase. The equity package is staggering. The title is the kind of golden credential that commands instant respect in the Seattle tech ecosystem. But there is a condition buried in the corporate vernacular of the third paragraph. The new role requires full alignment with the executive vision, including the implementation of the agile, high-risk operational model. The golden handcuffs. Alex stands in the lobby of his building. The rain is hammering the glass doors. The security guard looks up from his desk. The offer is a seduction. It is the ultimate validation. The corporate system he has been fighting is now offering him a seat at the table, a chance to finally be taken seriously by the very metrics he has been measured against his entire career. All he has to do is surrender. All he has to do is agree to execute a strategy he knows will fail. All he has to do is trade his Veritas, his truth, for a title. His mind flashes to the conference room, to the feeling of sitting in silence, of the cold air, of the weight of his own presence. He thinks of Gravitas, Veritas, Constantia. He thinks of Margaret's question, "Are you building a career or are you building a cage?" This promotion is the most beautiful cage he has ever been offered. He reads the email one more time. He breathes in, he breathes out. The prefrontal cortex, the seat of his executive function, his rational mind, his sovereignty, is fully online. The amygdala, the fear center that would have lunged at the safety of the title, is quiet. The cortisol loop is broken. He is not reacting. He is choosing. He types his reply. It is 3 sentences long. "Thank you for the offer. I cannot, in good conscience, align with a strategic model that contradicts the project data. I remain committed to the role of project manager and to the success of the project on its current data-driven path." He hits send. The sound of the email leaving his outbox is a quiet, definitive click. It is the sound of a lock being turned, not a lock that traps him in, but a lock that seals the cage from the outside. He is no longer inside. He is standing in the rain and he is free. 3 months later, the office is the same. The fluorescent lights still hum their low, corporate dirge. The smell of burnt coffee still wafts from the break room. The Slack notifications still ping. But for Alex Turner, the static is gone. He walks through the open plan workspace, and the atmosphere around him is different. It is not that the environment has changed. It is that he is no longer permeable to it. The anxiety, the political maneuvering, the desperate, sweating need for approval that emanates from the other middle managers, it bounces off him like rain off stone. He occupies his space with a quiet, undeniable weight. When he speaks, people listen not because of his title, but because his words are rare, true, and deliberate. He is stone and flame, unmoving in his principles, burning with the purpose of his own dignita. The restructuring happened. The agile, high-risk model was implemented by Marcus Vance. 2 months later, the primary vendor missed a critical deadline. The bufferless supply chain collapsed, and the company lost its largest client. Vance was quietly asked to resign. The CEO, in a rare moment of corporate accountability, came to Alex, not to the managers who had nodded and agreed, but to the one man who had stood in the fire and told the truth, and asked him to rebuild the risk strategy from the ground up. Alex did not gloat. He did not say, "I told you so." He simply opened his laptop and began to work. His Veritas validated by reality, his Constantia unwavering. He is not a king. He is not an executive. He is a project manager. But he is a force to be reckoned with, because he is no longer a man who can be broken by a meeting, an email, or a performance review. He has built his inner fortress. He has claimed his Roman peace. You didn't click this video to watch a story about a man in Seattle. You clicked it because you recognize the cage. You know the feeling of sitting in that conference room, of pouring your energy into a system that swallows it whole and asks for more. You know the hollow ache of being acknowledged, but not heard. You know the seduction of the golden handcuffs, the slow, suffocating trade of your truth for a title. You are tired of the gray static. You are tired of the cortisol loop. You are tired of surviving. The Roman system is not a motivational quote. It is not a meditation app. It is an operating system for the soul. Gravitas, Veritas, Constantia. Depth, truth, consistency. It is the ancient firewall against a world that profits from your compliance. The first step is not a new job. It is not a promotion. It is not a corner office. The first step is a new mindset. It is the decision, made in the dark at 4 a.m., to stop asking for permission to exist and to start occupying your own space with the weight of a sovereign mind. The system is open. The door to the cage is unlocked, but you have to be the one to walk through it. In the comments below, tell me, what is the one corporate rule you're ready to break? The rule that says you have to answer emails at midnight. The rule that says you have to smile when they take credit for your work. The rule that says your worth is defined by your job title.